In this two-part tutorial, I'll show you how I generated and animated this character using Stable Diffusion, Photoshop, and After Effects. In this first part, I'll cover how the character in the background is made. I'll also do a walkthrough of how you prepare the final assets for animation. In part 2, I'll be showing you how I rig and animate the character in After Effects, adding additional elements to the composition and enhancing the lighting and colour with a grade. Now, I'm assuming that you already have Automatic1111 installed. If not, you can find my lazy tutorial playlist below. For this tutorial, we'll be using the Proto Thing 200 model from Hugging Face. It's an anime focus model and it's free to use. Then, when we're back in Automatic1111, you want to load the model into the checkpoint at the top. Then, in the text to image description box, you want to put in your prompt. I'm constantly throwing extra words into this every time that I open the software to see if it changes much. I haven't got it down to an exact science yet, but the format I've had the most success with in the past requires the quality keywords at the start, followed by a lighting description, then information about the character, with the final prompt word being the background. If you want to copy mine, I'll leave it in the comment below. Same deal with the negative prompt list, but again, I need to do more digging into this myself to see if it really benefits the results. I want the AI to generate a character with curly hair, an orange and teal colour palette, and I'd like it to be holding a lightsaber with a space themed background. I keep the sampling method on ULA A, sampling steps on 20, a width of 960 with a height of 512, a batch size of 8 and a CFG scale set to 3.5. And then it's time to generate characters. You'll likely have to roll the dice a couple of times to get something good. At this point, I'm just looking for a strong pose and nice composition. This one's quite good. We'd only really need to fix the hand as well, but I'm going to keep on rolling to try and find something better. You're going to see a lot of deformed aspects. AI in many instances doesn't like hands or weapons. It gets very confused about these things. This one's quite cool. You could probably do a nice animation around the portal gun, but let's keep going. This is the one. It's a strong pose. I don't like that she's holding the lightsaber down, and there are a couple of parts of the image that need tidying up, but this will definitely make a strong base to work from. So I've taken this into Photoshop, and the first thing that I'm going to do is just colour pick this blue, and I'm going to go to the brush tool and just increase the size a little bit, and using the shift and click, I'm going to do that a couple of times to make the base of the lightsaber. Then I'm going to grab the white. I'm going to use the same technique again, just lower the brush size first, and I'm going to go through the middle. Don't worry if it looks a bit basic at the moment, because I'm going to take this back into Img2Img to modify it again. This is just to get a base foundation. After that, I'm going to grab the lasso tool and just going to go round this little beam in the top left corner. I'm going to right click and content aware fillet just to get rid of it. Again, doesn't need to be perfect because we're going to go to Img2Img to do some work on it later. I'm going to continue to do that now. I'm going to go around this little laser beam here. Again, right clicking content aware fill to get rid of that. And then I'm exporting it. Now you can export it as a JPEG or a PNG. It doesn't matter as long as it's high quality. Then back in Automatic1111, copy the text from the text to image panel and paste it into the image to image panel. Do the same for the negative prompts as well. Finally, select the Inpainting tab and drag your image into it. Match the width and height with the previous width and height that you had. I'm upping my batch size to 7 here, and then taking the denoising strength down to 0.5, increasing the sampling steps to 40 this time. And then you just mask out the area that you want to change, and then click generate. So I've got an issue here. I had this set to original, so it's still picking up some of the orange light, when really I should have set it to fill instead. The original setting is going to take the orange hue and try to convert that into something that makes sense with the glow. Whereas if we choose the fill option, it'll give us something completely different. We'll just increase the mask size, change it to fill and generate again. And there we go, we can just flick through a couple of these. I'm going to choose this one because it looks the cleanest to me. I'm going to go back on the mask and I'm going to drag the new image in, and I'm just going to tidy up where the join comes in. I'm going to set it to original. I'm going to generate some more images just to see what pops up. Now, flicking through these, we have a bunch of options. I think this one's the best though, so I'm going to save this, and again I'm going to drag in the new version, and then I'm going to paint over the lightsaber. we've got a bunch of options here. Looks quite cool. Yeah, the other ones are a little bit too short, so I think I'm going to go with this one, and I might even throw that into Img2Img again. Just wait for this to finish generating. Yeah, now it's just a matter of having a look at all your options. This one's quite good. You know, I quite like that. Let's see what else we got. That's all right as well. Nah, I'm going to stick with this. This is the best one. And again, we're going to drag in the new image. I'm just going to mask out the bottom piece, change it to fill, and then generate a new image. And there we go. That's almost perfect, to be fair, because it's sorted the hand out as well. In a lot of instances, you've got to do more work to get the hand looking nice, but that seems to have done it first time. Let's just see what else we've got, though. Yeah, I'm sticking with this first one. And then I'm just going to paint out this glowing bit on the bottom left. It's not really blending too well, but to be fair, I'm not entirely sold on this canister looking thing on the left anyway. I might get rid of that later. So back in Photoshop, we're now going to begin the process of cutting out our character. I'm going to speed parts of this up just because the process of going around with the pen tool is quite a lot. If you do have a better method, please let me know in the comments, because I would love to be able to do this quicker. And once everything's selected, right click, make selection, Control C, delete the character from the background, and then paste it on its own layer. Then I'm just going to go in, I'm going to cut out more elements of the background. It is a bit of a tedious, long process, but it is what it is. Now with these two background elements, I'm just going to merge them together into a smart object. Then I'm going to rasterize that. I'm going to use the Magic Wand tool to click into the empty space. Then I'm going to go to Select, Modify, Expand. I'm going to expand it by 5 pixels. I'm going to click the rectangular marquee tool, and then I'm going to right click, Fill, and Content Aware Fill the background. Now, it looks weird, but it's fine because Img2Img is going to save the day again. So let's get that exported, and then we're going to take that back into Automatic1111. Let's drop that in. Now we want to add in the word scenery at the start. And we want to get rid of any mention of the character. So I'm going to get rid of the descriptive information about the hair and the clothing and the lightsaber. I'm just going to keep it as a space background. You know what? Let's make it a Space City background. This is interesting. Oh, this is cool as well. I might... Yeah, I'm gonna save a couple of these for the time being. I'll decide what I want later. I'll test the character with these different backgrounds just to see which one fits. And the beauty of it is you can drag these images back into Img2Img to tweak them again. This is very cool. You know what? I'm going to have that. Now, let's get back to this canister thing. I'm not really happy about it. So I'm just going to delete that completely. And again, this bit at the back doesn't make sense to me now, so I'm just going to get rid of that as well. And there we go, it's been cleaned up a little bit. I'm just going to grab the square marquee tool again, drag out the whole composition, click G and fill the background with black. The contrast here is just going to help me see the character from the background a little easier. Next, I'm just going to separate out the shoulder piece. and put that on its own layer. Now, there's a little trick we can do with the lasso tool where we're going to fill in the missing part of the arm. And we're just going to paint in the colours. So you can see I've got the armband, the arm, and then a bit of the leather on the top with a bit of metal of the blue. We're going to take this back into Img2Img to generate an arm. So now this is back in Img2Img, we just mask over that. We've got a load of options that we can fit the shoulder piece over. I'm going to drop this back into Photoshop. The shoulder piece now sits on top of the arm. You can move it around without much issue. We're going to isolate the new arm layer and we're going to blend that in with the original arm. To smooth this out, I'm going to create a layer mask. Now the reason I do this instead of an eraser is just because it's not destructive. If I want to go back in later and paint something back in, I can do just by changing the brush color to white. Now we do have a slight issue with the shoulder piece. When we move it down, the back of it is cutting into the arm, so we're going to have to separate that as well. Again, just using the pen tool, I'm going to grab that and put it on its own layer. And I'm just going to expand this out with the lasso tool as well. I'm going to use smudge. I'm just going to drag the colour across. Now, as you see, when it goes up and down or it moves about, it's not cutting into the arm and it's not leaving an empty bit behind. I'm just going to fill in an extra bit here just to fix that little problem that we had then where it was showing. And there we go. Now I'm going to isolate the head. Again, just using the pen tool. Separate that and put it on its own layer. Just tidy up this bit here as well. And then we're going to extend her neck. Now I'm going to use the same smudge tool trick. I'm going to content aware fill this little aspect of it here. And that is good enough for me. There we go, now we can get some movement on the head. Next, I'm just going to tidy up some blemishes on the face and just do a bit of retouching again with the content aware fill tool. Next, I'm going to chop out her left arm with the lightsaber. And then again, using the same techniques as before, I'm just going to fill that with content aware fill. It doesn't have to be perfect this because it's going to mainly sit behind the body. Next, I'm going to cut out the right arm. And I will separate this on its own layer as well. Now where there's going to be a bit of rotation around the arm, that's going to need filling as well. And then I'm going to put that layer back behind the body. I'm going to separate the forearm. And then I want to create a little more bleed around the upper arm. Just tidy that up with content aware fill. Fill in the rest of the body again with content aware fill. Hopefully you're starting to see how all of this will come together when it's rigged. Now we have an issue with the upper arm that we need to fix. We need it to both sit behind the body and in front of the body at the same time at different parts. Because otherwise if we go to rotate it, it's going to clip. So I'm going to separate this layer from the rest of the body. Just place it back. And then I'm going to tidy it up and just increase the bleed on it. I'm going to duplicate that layer. And take the transparency down. And then using the pen tool, I'm just going to cut out around the arm. And have that sit on top. Now when the arm rotates, that shouldn't cause us any issues. Next, I'm going to chop off the hand, that sounds weird to say, and the little gun. Make that its own layer. Again, using the lasso tool, we're going to extend the bleed, just so when we rotate it, it doesn't have any empty space. Next, I'm going to look at some of these finer details, like these little flaps. Again, I'm just going to separate them on their own layer. I'll have those flapping about in the wind when I come to animate this. To be fair, most of this is just the pen tool and content aware fill. Now for the most tedious bit. Each individual strand of hair needs to be on its own layer. So I'm time-lapsing this because it took ages, and it will take ages. And after that, we're going to cut out the eyes. Again, it all sounds terrible out of context. So there we go. You know, just cut around the eye. Again, we're going to use our little modify technique. We're going to expand it by 1 pixel and then fill it. Just tidy up this bit as well. We're going to place the eye back into frame on a new layer. And we're going to do the same for the other side. Your character's going to start looking weird very quick. Like something out of a horror film. This is completely normal. Don't worry about it. And then just filling in this part of the face. We're going to have the hair waving on top of the face. So I need a bit more face underneath. And then we're just going to cut out the rest of the head for the time being because we want a base level of hair. God, it does look kind of creepy, doesn't it? But yeah, that's what you want it to look like. The next stage is just going around each individual strand of hair that you can get that you want to animate and just copying and pasting the layers. Don't delete the layers underneath just yet because we'll mask out what we need to in After Effects. At the moment, you just want to cut out each chunk of hair so it sits as its own layer as well as the base layer. When you get to these overlapping pieces, I'm going to take the smudge tool and I'm just going to get rid of the overlap on them. You'll see here again, because when we put the layers of hair above each other, it will be overlaying it anyway. Once you've got all of this sorted, you will be ready to animate the character. And there you go, that's the end of part 1. If you stick around for part 2, I'll show you how we take all of these assets into After Effects to make this.